YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL rankings for the upcoming 2019 season. Today's video, I'm ranking the wide receiver cores, ranking every single team. We're going to go worst to first, 32 to 1. Going to have to split these teams up. I'm looking for legit number one receivers, but also at the same time, a very deep rotation. I don't really care about the depth. I want the rotation that contributes on a game-by-game basis. Some of these teams have it, some teams don't. Some teams got legit number ones, but I prefer a deep rotation. But we're going to split these teams up here in just a second. Right before we get started, subscriber goals at 40K subscribers by the end of this year. Please help us out by subscribing. Full coverage of the NFL in season. Updated recaps every single week. Power rankings updated, and then we got predictions, score predictions, plenty more. Cover college football as well. Click that like button. Check out the Twitter. All that much appreciated. Hopefully you can join us for the in NFL season coverage. Let's start with the bottom group here. I'm going to talk about them one by one. So at the bottom, we got the Redskins, unfortunately. They did a pretty good job in the draft. Terry McLaurin from Ohio State's going to be the guy that probably gets the most playing time there for the future, I'd say. I think he could be their future one, but is he really a number one receiver? They also got Calvin Harmon, who I like. I think that's a steal, and I think he can make the team and work out for them. But Josh Doctson, Paul Richardson, there's really no number one here. You don't have a number one, and there's good depth, but is the rotation that great? I mean, these guys will contribute, but that's because they have to contribute. I think they're heading in the right direction. I don't know if Doctson and Paul Richardson are in for the long haul, possibly Paul Richardson. Doctson if the contract's cheap. But right now, as they sit, I think the bottom receiver core in football, Carolina Panthers will be the second to last. DJ Moore is a number one. He's not he's a number one receiver, and I think he's got a lot of potential. He's not obviously an outstanding and a crazy number one receiver. He'd be number two on plenty other teams, some teams maybe even number three, but I do think he's good. Curtis Samuel, everyone's very confident he'll break out this year. I'm somewhat confident, but there's no guarantee there. There's no guarantee. He hasn't lived up to the hype yet. So that's your number two receiver. Lost a few guys. And there's a few guys that can contribute here and there. Jarius Wright's a third down threat. That's about it, and he's not going to rack up a whole bunch of yards. Hogan's not the same Patriots Hogan. So there's Aldrick Robinson can help you here and there, but there's not too much going on here. You have a number one, a potential step up number two. Potential's the key word. So that's why I got the Panthers there. 30, New York Giants. Golden Tate is suspended, but when he's back, that helps them not be 31st or 32nd. Latimer is a guy that can step up. Corey Coleman's already hurt. And Sterling Shepard, he's a solid number two, can be a number one if you absolutely need him to be, which they will when Golden Tate's out. So having Tate and Sterling Shepard pretty much keeps them from being 31st or 32nd. The Packers are 29. They have Devontae Adams, one of the best receivers in the game. And then they have a bunch of guys that are depth guys to me. They're not really rotation guys. They will be rotation for the Packers because they need them to be. But they're a bunch of depth guys. Valdez-Scantling, he's solid. He's a rotation guy. He's got some speed. Needs to be more consistent. But, he's young, so it's what's expected. Equanimeous St. Brown doesn't have the greatest hands. he can be a jump ball threat. That was the guy they drafted last year. Jake Kumaro is a guy that's going to step up. But, yeah, you're kind of banking on some of these other. Geronimo Allison's a guy that can step up. And then in the year, you kind of hear it from everybody, too. Rodgers definitely needs more weapons. I think he does need more top-tier weapons. I think they got a bunch of depth guys. Scantling's a guy that I think's a rotation guy, and then Devontae Adams, one of the best touchdown machines in the game. Definitely one of the better receivers. So they definitely can get better there. But it could be worse, obviously. You see the teams below them. The Saints at 28, similar situation to the Packers, but a little better. They got Michael Thomas. You can make I think most people would say Michael Thomas better than Devontae Adams, but you can make the case either way. I suppose. But they also have Traquan Smith, which I think gives them the edge. I think he's better than anybody else in the Packers or some of these other teams below them. And then Ted Ginn, you could say the Saints should be higher because Ted Ginn, what are you going to get out of him at his age and with the injuries? That's the main thing. How many games is he going to be healthy for? I thought Meredith would be good for them. They end up getting rid of him. So not a whole bunch there on the Saints. Not a very good rotation. Not a very good core. Traquan Smith's a young guy to look out for. Michael Thomas, one of the best in the game. The Jets at 27. I don't know if they have a legit number one. It's kind of borderline for me. You know, I like Robbie Anderson. He's got speed. I mean, he might be number 2 or number 3 on a lot of teams. He's a good sideline threat. Like I said, with the speed, hopefully he can stay healthy. Noon was a sneaky guy. You know, he's pretty good after the catch. I mean, he's not going to wow you anywhere, really, to me. And they add Jamison Crowder. I think it's a solid number 3. Not much going for them after that. So the Jets do come at 27, but you got a rotation in there with the 3. You know, you have a starting 2 or 3. But it's a good group that can switch off between playing in the slot and playing outside. So that's why they may have the edge over a couple of these teams that have a legit number 1, but not too much of a rotation. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 26. They have a really good duo and really nothing after that, honestly. They had one of the best units in football, but losing Deshaun Jackson and losing Humphreys. So just having Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there. I mean, that's a pretty darn good duo, but that's really all you got. So it's kind of weighing them down. But the duo kind of bringing them back up from the very bottom. And the Ravens at 25, kind of known as one of the worst receiver cores of the last few years, but they do a very good job in the draft. I have high expectations for some of the guys in the draft that they got from the draft. Marquise Brown, I think, can be a legit number 1. He will be a playmaker for them. And then Miles Boykin, they're liking a lot. I just really like the pairing between Brown and Boykin. It really, makes a solid core. And then Willie Snead, who Lamar Jackson likes a lot, is obviously back. And I think that's a really good trio. A few other guys that can rotate in. But the Ravens, they're heading in the right direction. Young guys, I think, the young guys really make this team go from last to 25. So, I mean, it's still not the best ranking, but they're on their way up. The next 8 we'll talk about here. Pittsburgh Steelers at 24. I like the duo, as long as James Washington lives up to the hype. That's the question too. Juju Smith-Schuster and James Washington. I do like James Washington. Eli Rogers. How much are you going to get from him? And they draft Deontay Johnson from Toledo too. So I mean, it's a pretty good young group. I guess they're heading in the right direction. A lot of these teams are pretty close. So Steelers at 24, Miami Dolphins at 23. Do they have a legit number 1? I think Kenny Stills is their number 1, but again, he could be number 2 on a lot of other teams. Devontae Parker has a little bit of hype, but still a target. And I really like the 2 shifty guys in Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant. Those guys kind of bumped this up because then you got a very solid 4 there. And how can we forget about Preston Williams, who the undrafted from Colorado State, too. I like him a lot as well. So really a good 5 there. They got a pretty solid 5, but kind of not having a true legit number 1 kind of weighs them down a little bit. The Jags are kind of in the same boat. No true number 1. I think Marquise Lee's right there, borderline, kind of like the Dolphins. I think a little better situation there in terms of their number 1. D.D. Westbrook, DJ Chark could really step up as well. So, I mean, people hate on the Jags unit a little too much. People say they have the worst. I don't think they have the worst. It's not great. Marquise Lee, I think, is a little bit on the underrated side. So this is definitely a young group to watch out for. The Cardinals, another young group. I mean, they got a lot of guys. It's a good rotation, but some of it's kind of depth because we really don't know yet. Isabella and Akeem Butler and Keyshawn Johnson. How much playing time those guys are going to get? I think Isabella will get quite a bit. Butler and Keyshawn Johnson, kind of on the fringe there. So are they rotation? Are they depth? And then obviously you have Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. So it's a pretty long list and they signed Michael Crabtree. That's right. So, I mean, it's a long list of receivers. I don't know if I do know Fitzgerald's really not the same as he used to be, but he's still pretty darn good. It's just, a lot of these guys, how much of an impact are they going to make? Are they going to be able to stay on the field that much? The Cowboys, I think going back, I think they added Crabtree for a reason. Maybe Akeem Butler and Keyshawn Johnson aren't quite ready yet. Maybe Isabella's not quite ready yet. Number 20 is the Cowboys. They got a pretty good 3, pretty darn good 2 with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. I really like the potential of Michael Gallup, the upside. And they had Randall Cobb. Not much after that. So the really good duo and then the pretty darn good trio kind of lifts them up from the bottom, so it brings them up to 20. 19, 49ers, some young guys I really like here. A little risky starting to get inside the top 20, putting the young guys up here, but I kind of believe in this unit here. You got Dante Pettis, very good route runner, will get open. Goodwin needs to stay healthy, deep threat, very fast, everyone knows, and shifty. But then you get 2 rookies who I really like, Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurts, and I think those 2 guys can contribute big time right away. So a good group of 4 there. It's a pretty darn good group of 4, and it's a good rotation. That's the key there. 18 is the Indianapolis Colts. T.Y. Hilton, obviously, at the top. And then you got Devin Funchess. I've never been a huge Devin Funchess fan, but you do add him. He's still a solid option. And you get Paris Campbell, who's, one of the faster, shifty receivers from the draft. They add him. Other guys like Chester Rogers, Deion Kane, those are kind of maybe guys. Will they be a legit part of the rotation for the right reasons? So a solid group. I guess they got a little better this offseason. Adding Funchess and Paris Campbell. 17 is the Raiders, as long as Antonio Brown's on the field, which I expect him to be. Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, and then J.J. Nelson, who's pretty solid too, and they got Renfro and Marcel Aitman. So a few guys that can be rotation guys down there, but they got the 3 guys at the top that will contribute right away. Antonio Brown being, one of the better receivers in the NFL, kind of lifts them up a little bit. But on to the next 8 teams. Cincinnati Bengals at 16. I didn't really know where to put the Bengals. Honestly, I was kind of back and forth where to put them because AJ Green is out for a little bit. If he's there fully healthy, they're much better than 16. I like the group. I still believe in John Ross, but I do like Tyler Boyd a lot. And then Erickson actually is a solid rotation guy, and I think Josh Malone can be as well. It's just AJ Green out, and then the scare that he could get re-injured again kind of sticks in my head. But so kind of put them in the middle. We're gonna split the difference here with the Bengals. A tough one to rank. The Bills at 15. Really no top tier number 1, but really good rotation. It kind of moves them down for not having that legit number 1. Who's going to be that real number 1 for them, but then kind of boost them way back up because I really like the rotation, the way these guys can move from the slot to the outside. They can keep rotating in, and who will be their number 1? It could be Robert Foster, who was the undrafted guy from Bama a year ago. Zay Jones still has some upside on him, and they get the 2 guys that can play in the slot, play outside, and John Brown, Cole Beasley. So a list of guys that can really rotate with each other and play multiple spots at the receiver position. So the rotation's key here for why the Bills are 15. The Broncos at 14. I think they got a good big 3 with Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton, Sean Hamilton, a couple of young guys that could step up. But really it's the 3 that's bringing that receiver group up. A lot of upside with the 2 out of Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton. So really looking forward to watching them. Emmanuel Sanders was very impressive last year. The Chargers at 13. They have Keenan Allen and, of course, Mike Williams, a very good duo. So the duos kind of keep them up. But they do have some solid pieces. Travis Benjamin's really not the same, but he's a solid piece. And they add Inman again, actually, solid piece. And then Artavis Scott, he's mainly a depth guy, but can he be part of the rotation? But it's mainly the duo keeping the Chargers up there. Speaking of a duo keeping a team up, the Vikings at 12, who have the best receiver duo in football, and Thielen and Diggs. So that, they're starting off at number 1 with the duo. But then they kind of go crashing down a bit because the rest of it's somewhat of a mess. I think Minnesota's a little too hyped on Chad Beebe. They're hearing some things out of practice, and I'm not doubting the kid, but just relax a little bit. Let's relax. Didn't really see anything from preseason yet, and he's kind of been injured last year and this year in practice. So I still think Treadwell can be their 3rd best receiver. We haven't really seen it yet. I still believe in his potential. I think it could be elsewhere. If he goes to the right team, I have a feeling he's going to kind of show the Vikings up elsewhere. I really think that'll happen. I think he has talent. I can see the talent in him. Vikings don't really use him right, but he does need to execute in some moments where he didn't. I do think he's probably the 3rd best receiver. Not saying much with the rest of that unit, but yeah, again, a very good duo, but the rest of them kind of weighing them down here. The Titans at 11, kind of the opposite. They do have a number 1 in Corey Davis, but they just have a good group in general. They add Humphreys, A.J. Brown, who I like a lot. They added to the draft, and they have Tajay Sharp and a few other guys. Taywan Taylor's actually been pretty disappointing, but, he can contribute, a shifty guy. So a really good rotation team here. Really good rotation. I think a lot of those guys that I just mentioned will really get in there and get on the field, too. And they have a couple undrafted guys that can possibly make the team. So it's a good unit there. 10, Seattle. I was surprised, after analyzing all these teams' receivers, I was surprised in myself that I actually like Seattle's, I guess, more than I expected, if that makes any sense. I like this. I like this group. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, hopefully he's healthy. He's already hurt, but nothing major. And then David Moore has been very, very impressive. And then Jaron Brown's definitely a guy to look out for, too. So I think it's a good group, and they always have these younger guys, these kind of secret weapons step up out of nowhere. So I really like this group. I like the group. I like the big 3-4. Really, it's just DK's got to stay healthy. That's the key here. And 9's the Philadelphia Eagles. They got Alshon Jeffrey, who's pictured there. I mean, he's not going to get any better, but we know we're going to get from him. Definitely a darn good receiver. And Deshaun Jackson, kind of the same thing. Maybe he's declining a little bit, not going to get any better, but definitely a shifty option, definitely a speedy option, good option for Carson Wentz. Nelson Aguilar, a solid rotation guy. They did try to trade him, but he's a solid rotation guy. And then they add J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So it's kind of a big four there. There's nothing really crazy. They don't have that elite number 1, even though they're number 9 on this list. They just got a really good 4 there, in my opinion. I mean, they got Mac Hollins too, so I mean, they got more than 4. But yeah, I think that's worthy of the number 9 spot there. I think Alshon Jeffrey is the number 1 receiver, and it's pretty cool because I think Arcega-Whiteside is another version of Alshon Jeffrey, so I think that'll work out pretty good. Be interesting to see if they use them both. I think they will in the red zone, both at the same time. That's going to be fun. So now we're on to the top 8. Top 8 get a special treatment here with the graphics. So a lot of work in this one, though, so I wish I could. I'm trying to get to a lot of videos before the season starts. Wish I can do this treatment for all the teams. But number 8's the Lions. I think an underrated receiver core here. Here's the top 4 with Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, and then Tommy Lee Lewis. And they also drafted Travis Fulgham out of Old Dominion, who I like too. So I think that's a pretty good group right there. Really 5 that'll rotate in and out. I mean, the duo off the top, the trio really off the top, but that's a darn good duo at the top there with Golladay and Marvin Jones. Golladay on his way up to, one day very soon being a top 10 receiver, in my opinion. And then Marvin Jones, I think, is underrated. I think he's a pretty darn good receiver as long as he's healthy. So they're at number 8. The Chiefs at number 7 with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson. It's a good group of 4. Not too much after that 4, but it's a pretty darn good group of 4 there. Tyreek Hill, I don't need to explain why there. Sammy Watkins needs to be, he needs to be more consistent. The Colts playoff game, that was Sammy Watkins. There he is. But I want to see that more. We know what he's capable of, but I want to see more of it, more consistency. Hardman, I think, can really pass him to be known as, I guess, maybe their second best receiver. I guess Tyreek Hill but it doesn't really matter. He can use both at the same time. So Hardman could pass Watkins in terms of the second best receiver on the team. And Robinson is a solid option, but it's really the top 3 that make up this team. Number 6, the Houston Texans, who I think could be higher. I just need to trust the health a little more. And really, it's mainly 3, just like the Chiefs. It's mainly 3 holding these guys up. DeAndre Hopkins, who's the best receiver in football. Hopkins Fuller could be the best duo in football. It really could be. I just need to trust Fuller to stay healthy. It's hard to trust him to stay healthy. He is a scary, dangerous, deep threat. It really helps Hopkins too. They really complement each other. So I need to see Fuller stay healthy. That is a fun group. And then Kute, who's recently had a minor injury too, who's a very good shifty receiver too. So and then they have DeAndre Carter battling for that 4th spot along with Vincent Smith. So one of those guys can step up and get that spot. But it's mainly the 3 there. So and it's really Hopkins holding them up. You can argue it either way. It's kind of Hopkins kind of carrying them up to 6 because the injury's below them, or it's like, looking at the talent, Hopkins, Fuller, and Kute, maybe they start at the top, but then the injuries and kind of hard to trust their health, that kind of brings them down. So you kind of can look at it different ways. The Rams at 5, a pretty darn good group here. And Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, that's a darn good duo. Cooper Kupp, which I think is going to want anybody to get me wrong here. I think he's good. I think people get hyped on him a little too much. I don't think he's that good. I think he's good. So Cooper Kupp's the 3. And same thing with Reynolds. He's solid. He's solid to have for a 4th receiver. I think maybe people get a little too hyped on him as well. He had his good and bad moments when he was in. I just think you put any receiver in this offense and they're going to look solid. So, but Cooks and Woods are legit. That's a darn good duo. Kupp's legit too. I think there's a little hype, too much hype at times, but still, number 5 for the Rams. We're on the top 4 receiver cores in football. Number 4 is the Chicago Bears. They don't have that elite 1, but Allen Robinson is a darn good receiver in his second year of the Chicago Bears. They have Anthony Miller in his second year in the NFL, was a touchdown machine, an athletic freak. I expect him to be better. Taylor Gabriel was surprisingly very good last year. one of the sure-handed catchers, I'd say. Very good route runner. So right off the bat, it's a good 3-0. They didn't need Riley Ridley. They drafted him because he was too good to pass. Very good blocking receiver, very good jump ball receiver. They had him in there. They also have Javon Wims, who is very solid, another Georgia receiver there. And they also have Cordero Patterson, not much of a receiver in terms of route runner, but he's a weapon you can throw the ball to. So the Bears are up here for the reason of insane rotation. They get the insane rotation award. This is the rotation. They don't have that elite one. Robinson's very, very good, but the rotation is just, I think every receiver that makes this team will contribute because they're good enough to contribute, and that's what I love about this receiver unit. 3, Cleveland Browns. Even though Antonio Callaway is suspended, you still got to throw him up here. You still got to throw him up here with the group: Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Rashad Higgins, and then Callaway. So it's a really good group of 4 there. Odell is one of the best in the game. Jarvis Landry, he's easily a top 32 receiver. I know people have different opinions on him, but he knows how to get open. He knows how to catch the ball. Higgins is very impressive to me, former Colorado State receiver. They're just pumping out receivers over there at Colorado State. So that's a really good trio. The duo maybe holding up a little bit, but the Higgins-Callaway group is also good. So, it's not really like Odell and Landry are completely carrying them. Number 2 is the Atlanta Falcons. With Julio, who you could argue is number 1 receiver in football, if not probably 2. Calvin Ridley. So both Ridley brothers on this page. That's pretty crazy. Calvin Ridley has got a lot of upside, a lot of potential. He grabbed quite a few touchdowns early last year. And Mohamed Sanu, who would be a second receiver on a lot of teams. And you could say he maybe is the second receiver, but then Ridley would be 3. And then Ridley, you could argue, is the second receiver on a lot of other teams. And they do have Hardy, who's kind of been known as the 4th guy. But I think Russell Gage can step up. But Justin Hardy is very solid as well. But Russell Gage is a young guy to watch out for. It's kind of that raw receiver/returner that with NFL coaching could just turn into something. So it's definitely a guy to watch out for. But I got the Patriots at 1. I think most people put the Falcons at 1. I got the Patriots at 1. Look at that 4. I know bearing Josh Gordon staying, not getting in trouble off the field or, passing tests, I guess. But Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon, N'Keal Harry, who's my number 1 receiver in the draft. I think he's going to be something else. And then Demaryius Thomas. This is a ridiculous 4 right here. Ridiculous 4. And then 4 guys that really can play. Pretty much, Aaron Gordon's mostly going to be outside, but pretty much guys that can play anywhere, even though Harry's more of a contested catcher. He has actually a very impressive time in the slot as well. So this is a legit group. It's a shame they don't have Gronk because this is their best receiver group they've ever had by far. And no more, well, for now, no more Gronk. Rumors he's coming back. We'll see. But I think the Patriots are 1. I didn't really have to think about it too much. Most people would say the Falcons. Really, the top 5 is really, really good. I guess the Patriots don't have that elite 1 either, but they just got a bunch of guys that are just that can ball. They're all battling for number 1s and number 2s on other teams, and there's 4 of them. So, and they got Dorsett too. So they got 5 guys. But the Bears with the rotation, that's a ridiculous rotation too. But let me know your guys' thoughts. Rank them in the comments if you would like. If you just want to do top 5, I'm all for that. Love to see those types of comments. We're going to do the same thing for pass rushers I want to do, secondaries. We're going to keep doing much content as we can. This is all preseason content, off-season content. We're trying to get the rest of it out before the season starts. Full coverage in season. Plenty to get to in season, actually, with the recaps, power rankings, straight up picks with multiple members of the GOAT House. I do score predictions against the spread as well, and yeah, plenty more. So hopefully you can join us for that. Hopefully you can subscribe. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.